Chapter 4. Jamal Johnson's New Office. Jamal Johnson was conducting the grand tour of his new office to an audience of one, his cousin Junior Johnson. Almost as soon as he started practicing law, Jamal realized that it might appear a bit too Tom Hagen-ish for a young lawyer with expensive taste to maintain a clientele of one. What might elevate eyebrows farther was that his Don Corleone happened to be his uncle Tecumseh, a senior administrator at the Harris County Community Supervision Service. Jamal had opened neighborhood legal services and staffed it with 3 African Americans recently admitted to the bar, all of whom shouldered colossal student loans. The firm performed enough pro bono work to meet a public relations quota, but they mostly handled wills and divorces and disability and immigration. The decision to locate deep in the 3rd Ward had less to do with the intent to be down with the people than it had to do with Jamal's advanced knowledge of biochemical attacks later effectuated on courthouses located in Harris County. He had correctly surmised that the courthouse attacks would claim several nearby law firms as collateral damage. Despite the temporary disruption of civil and criminal proceedings in Harris County, Jamal's storefront law firm prospered. An abandoned warehouse, quietly owned by Tecumseh Sherman Johnson Sr., had been converted into a makeshift courthouse, and suddenly neighborhood legal services held the lawyer equivalent of beachfront property. The storefront did not hold a single document involving the Johnson family. Jamal kept those documents in a safe in his basement in a recently gentrified Houston neighborhood. The family paid him well, and they paid him mostly in cash. Meanwhile, 3 attorneys and 2 secretaries had become 6 attorneys, 2 paralegals, and 3 secretaries. It was time for a new office. Jamal had devoted more time than he had intended to ensure that his office projected success with grace. Nothing forced, nothing contrived, nothing gauche. No gold plating or Persian rugs that cost more than a sports car. No sable cushion furniture or anything that shouted nouveau riche. But there was plenty of walnut and cherry and carpet as thick as polar bear hide. And Jamal had hired a behavioral architectural consultant. True to the consultant's recommendations, the employees worked in cramped offices on sausage wood desks. Jamal's office was plush and spacious and regal. The color combinations hinted at a Houston Cougar athletic motif, trim in shade and splash of scarlet and albino. The B-Art consultant had installed wall mirrors that could be adjusted by angle and lens to increase or decrease the hue of dominance. The lighting offered similar options, and the fortress of a desk was equipped with hydraulic lifts that could make the visitor feel like a 3rd grader in the principal's office. And Jamal showed his cousin his high-back leather chair that could elevate to bar stool heights and conceal one's dangling legs beneath the raised desk so as to not reveal the deception of stature. It would be in the section of Jamal's office where the matching high-back scarlet leather chairs were arranged at a 147-degree angle that business would be discussed. The first item on the agenda was confidentiality. For Junior's amusement and peace of mind, Jamal unleashed his deluxe counter-spy robot. The device looked like a lawnmower with antennae. It was equipped with wheels, but for now it sat in the middle of the floor as it scanned for radio waves, laser bombardment, infrared bombardment, and scanned the room with cameras in search of rival micro cameras in what was designed to be a spy-proof room. The bot transmitted its findings to a wall screen that Jamal could view by glancing away from his cousin, and Junior could view by looking past his cousin. Jamal was relieved to hear Junior laugh about Lefetia's pregnancy. It was no longer a secret, and Junior seemed relaxed about the matter. He told Jamal that his wife developed cravings for jalapeno peppers, and he joked that the kid had better not look anything like the Mexican landscaper who had planted some property line shrubs for them. Chuckles out of the way, the topic turned to Ulysses. You know that big shot investigator we hired to track down your brother and my cousin? I wonder why he stopped calling. He just got home from the hospital where he's recuperating from pneumonic anthrax. Oh, that's too bad, Junior muttered flatly. Shit. Too bad if he tries billing this for the time he was on his back in the hospital. That shit'll be too bad. I read on Houston Online that people are still getting infected by last year's biotax, Junior remarked. Jamal whistled. Collateral damage. That's all these people are to the Grande Cartel. The Army and the National Guard were telling everyone that they had the germs isolated and destroyed. But every week there are 2 or 3 new anthrax infections. Damn Mexicans, Jamal exclaimed. Damn Mexicans, Junior repeated with a smile on his face. The conversation turned to the elder Tecumseh Sherman Johnson. You won't believe the progress your uncle is making. The rehab people are amazed at his recovery. They want to call up a team to study him. One of them called it a miracle. Your father puts his trust in the Lord. I'm certain that his unending faith is behind his recovery. That and a truckload of smart, Junior replied coyly. Huh? Jamal blubbered with genuine surprise. We're just giving him a little at first. He showed results right away, so we stepped up the dose. Junior, that shit is illegal. I buy it from one of my peeps. You score from a con on your caseload? That's just not illegal. It is a violation of our own security protocol. That might be, but this really is a miracle drug. My father was mute one day, and the next day he called me on the phone to chat. A week later, he was reciting his favorite psalms with only a hesitation here and there. Junior, if they raid your father's house or office, this is my father, cuz. He made an 80% recovery in 2 weeks. We upped the dose, and he was at 95% a week later. He backslides here and there, but he is almost as good as new. We've tried to keep it quiet because we don't want to draw attention to the miracle. Junior leaned forward to summarize. It really is a miracle, Jamal. Jamal nodded. But it is an illegal miracle. Junior got excited. This is my father. I know, Jamal stated calmly. They're going to release a legal version of Smart in a few years. We don't have a few years. We thought about flying him to Canada, but all those clinics have waiting lists. Luckily, my supplier has provided us with quality product at a reasonable price. Jamal nodded calmly and tried to show respect before changing subjects. Look, cousin, I am happy for my uncle Tecumseh. He is like a second father to me. Hell, he's like a second father to all of his nieces and nephews. I love him. But as your attorney and your father's attorney, I have to advise you against this treatment. And we appreciate the advice, counselor. Jamal silently congratulated himself on gracefully closing the subject. Can we discuss Mississippi, Junior? Junior agreed to discuss the upcoming elections, but he took a few minutes to first discuss the problem he had securing meth chemist. He had taken the family into the meth business thinking that a chemist was a chemist was a chemist. Now he realized that bathtub cookers had their limitations. They were unable to produce wholesale quantities. Their product frequently varied in quality, and their production methods sometimes stunted shelf life. Without a reliably long shelf life, a commercial meth empire was not a possibility. Jamal nodded and listened to Junior's plan of action. He would scour the criminal databases in search of paroled chemists with formal scientific training, especially laboratory training. If there's one thing I learned, it's that the only thing you can count on cookers cooking is their brains. We need to find some chemists. Jamal smiled ever so slightly at Junior's analysis. At last, Jamal had the floor. I have to ask a question, cousin. Is there any progress in Mississippi? Junior smiled before answering. Don't you worry, counselor. I want this as bad as you do. I never have learned to like Republicans. Our crew is in Mississippi. This morning I read a cryptic comment on a news site that said, "We are tracking the bitch." It could happen soon. Jamal nodded. Should we have a backup team? Junior hesitated. I thought about that. We don't have a deep bench in this department. Jamal threw out a few suggestions. Disappeared. One drawback of the biological attacks was that Harris County community supervision could no longer keep a close eye on prospective talent. Could we tap into Montgomery or Liberty? Jamal was inquiring about Junior Johnson's sister's Cimarron, who was a community supervisor in adjacent Montgomery County, and his younger sister Canada, who was a community supervisor in adjacent Liberty County. Junior Johnson slowly shook his head. Canada just started her job in Liberty. She has to keep a low profile. And Cimarron, his voice tailed off. Jamal nodded. Cimarron was still under a microscope. She had granted her father remote access to her caseload and had set off a few alarms. There was an investigation, and Cimarron swore that someone had stolen her password, and she pointed her finger at her coworkers. But for now, the resources of Montgomery County would have to lay fallow. Junior did not want the meeting to quit on a sour note. Yes, he had been brought in to see Jamal's new office, but what Jamal really wanted was to ask him about Mississippi. That was the real agenda. Jamal never disappointed him, and he never wanted to disappoint his cousin. And he hated that cracker governor, and his family would benefit profoundly if Antoine became Mississippi's next attorney general. But he just did not have any more hitmen in his Rolodex. Cousin, let's have another closed-door meeting real soon. We'll sit here in your plush office, and we'll put together a backup team. Jamal smiled broadly, and Junior was relieved. Jamal ordered iced tea, and Junior reflected. Guzman was going to do it. Yes, Guzman was a pro. He might just complete the job before Jamal could make space in his schedule. Got to believe in Guzman. Guzman. Junior smiled ever so slightly at the thought of his reliable contractor. Guzman was Junior's ace, and Junior played his hand accordingly. Guzman.